afternoon, Principal Sir. Other dignitaries, my dear colleagues, and my beloved students, I heartily welcome Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay. Rajarshee is a EC alumni of BIT, and it is very nice feeling to see you again. Thank you, Rajarshee, for your coming back to BIT again as our today's guest speaker of this technical session. The faculty members and all the students are eagerly waiting to hear about your experience. So, with the permission of Principal Sir, I request Deepika to start the session. Over to you, Deepika.
A very good evening to respected Principal Sir, Professor Dr. N.C. Ghosh, our guest speaker for today, respected faculty members, and all my dear friends present on the other side of the screen. As we know that the Ministry of Human Resource Development is making every possible effort to drive innovation and entrepreneurship to emerge as one of the focal points of our education system. Taking part in this initiative, the institution's Innovation Council, BIT, in association with Indian Society for Technical Education, that is ISTE, Students Chapter of BIT presents today's technical webinar on middleware, a pillar in modern day application. Thereby, I, Deepika Pradhan from CAC first year, would like to take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this wonderful session where I proudly announce that our today's speaker is a very own alumni, Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay sir, to share his insights and acknowledge us with the latest technology. But before that, I would kindly request all the participants to mute yourselves, and if you got any queries, you can send it through the chat box. A question answer session will be held at the end of the session. I would also like to inform the participants that at the end of the session, you will be provided with a feedback link where you can fill it up and ensure your participation certificate. Now, I request our principal sir, Professor Dr. N.C. Ghosh sir, to say something and commence this session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Deepika Pradhan. I heartily welcome our today's speaker, Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay. It gives me a pleasure to welcome you because as a alumni of BIT. So it's basically for today it's homecoming back. I also thanks to our IIC BIT for organizing such an event. And Professor Arpita Chakraborty, then Professor Shobhan Nandi, Dr. Tapan Pal, Tanmoy Pal, Mr. Tanmoy Pal, and all other IIC team. And also I heartily welcome our students who are actually will be the beneficiary of today's talk. So when I have seen that the topic of today's talk is middleware, a pillar in modern day application integration, and Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay, he's an integration consultant, so he has rightly chosen the topic. Now it is the it is the time in the whole world that we'll have to integrate ourselves so that we can have a better life, we can have a better opportunities and scope. So it is not in that in the context of say having togetherness or integration. It is the togetherness and integration with regard to the technology. So once again, I heartily welcome our today's speaker, Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay, and also welcome our students who will be taking benefit of his talk. So today I will not be able to be with Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay for a long time because I have another commitment. So please excuse me for not being with you, for hearing you for a long time. So once again, I thank our IAC BIT team because they are doing very good work and they are making the institute proud by inviting all our alumni, those who are located in different places of the world. So it is helping the institute to get connected with our old students, and also it will help our students who are in the college now to get connected with their seniors. So my dear students, please try to get maximum from your seniors so that you can take benefit of his experience and he can share his viewpoints also. That will help you uh, go further in your future endeavor. With these words, thank you very much. Over to Deepita.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. Now I would request the President of IIC BIT, Professor Orpita Chakraborty ma'am, to say something.
Thank you, Deepika. Am I
Ma'am, your voice is breaking, I think.
Deepika, please respond.
Your voice is breaking over
voice is
here.
Actually,
Your voice is breaking, Orpita.
okay, so I would not say much more. I just welcome Mr. Rajarshee Mukherjee, our alumni, and best wishes for all. That's all for today, actually.
Thank you everyone for this warm welcome, and maybe then we can just start off. Like, is it okay, Shravan sir? Like, I can start the kick of the session.
Before that, I want to request Anushka to please introduce our speaker to in front of the audiences. Anushka, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Institution Innovation Council, Bengal Institute of Technology presents a webinar on the topic of middleware in modern day application integration. And today's guest speaker is alumni of BIT, Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay. Myself, Anushka Mukherjee, first year CSCA from BIT, is going to introduce Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay. Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay is BTech engineer in Electronics and Communication Engineering stream from BIT. He is an integration API consultant with 7 years of industry experience, currently working as an integration consultant in Bloemer, Belgium, to deliver enterprise-class middleware solution to multiple customers in Western Europe. He is working on multiple roles like integration developer, consultant, lead solution architect, API designer, and played pivotal roles in design and development for multiple reputed international clients like Novartis Pharmaceuticals, Tata Motors Australia, Dell EMC Sonipur France, AdLife US in diverse sectors from healthcare, automobile retail to insurance. He is holding subject matter expertise and extensive expertise enterprise architecture, design, and development on various ESB or IPaaS platforms, message-oriented middleware, MOM, Open API, RAML, Java, JavaScript, CrubyScript, HTML, XML, XSLT, XSD, WSDL, SOAP, REST, HTTP or HTTPS, queuing, etc. Previously, he worked on reputed organizations like Capgemini, Entity Data Services, and Cognizant, where he started as a Java developer, slowly transitioned to the middleware domain. So, highly welcoming our today's guest, Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay. So now the stage is yours.
Thank you, Anushka, for this praises. Actually, so let's get started. Basically, on the technology stack that I'll be talking of today is middleware. So just maybe let me share my screen. So, so guys, everyone can see my screen, hopefully.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, so basically, I'll first define what the agenda of the session is like. What is exactly the like the definition of middleware and the purpose for which we use it, and then maybe understand some key concepts of like middleware. What are the basic building blocks like web services, REST APIs, etc. Like after the end of the session, you should be like be familiar with some terms and terminologies that we commonly use in the middleware world, and maybe go through some use cases at the end, like how we can apply this middleware solutions to solve our real world scenarios. So what are basically middleware? Middleware is basically, you can say, like it's a backbone of any kind of enterprise architecture. So I'll be using the term enterprise architecture here very often because generally most big organizations, they invest heavily on like middleware as a part of their enterprise architecture solutions to make different applications talk to each other. So you can think of it as like there are two applications. And in the front end, for example, we have a web application or maybe a mobile application that wants to interact with some kind of different applications hosted by a different company. So the way to do this is via middleware. So basically, you can think of it, it's kind of a translation service, but it can do many more multiple things. For example, like one application, like there are different protocols in which the applications work on. For example, a source application sends out data in XML format, and maybe the target is some kind of a database, and where they understand a JDBC terminology. So it's a particularly specific to database. So basically here the middleware will basically be translating an XML request in a JDBC understandable format to get data out of the database and throw it back to the requesting application. So just like if you still have a doubt, like I would like to make it make an analogy here. Like it's kind of a thing like for example, two person they wish to communicate with each other and they have different mother tongue. For example, a person in France who speaks only French wants to communicate with someone in Japan who speaks only Japanese. So what he will do is like basically that person will write a letter. The French person, he will write a letter in his mother tongue, that's French, and post it to a person who speaks both French and Japanese. So that person basically will see this letter in French and write a same copy understandable by the Japanese speaker in Japanese and send it over to the Japanese person. And so that the Japanese person can decipher the message in Japanese and respond back in Japanese, and the same thing can be done vice versa. So basically the person over here, you can imagine him as a middleware. So over here, there might be some nuances of a language that he will be put to the place because some things are so there are certain different things in different languages. So he will take care of different nuances. So basically how this middleware is relevant in today's world is like one of the most powerful building blocks are like REST APIs. So REST APIs, then we will be handling just looking at it like how REST APIs work. So basically, what are REST APIs? Like I'll be using the term REST APIs because it's nowadays very much in use because there are other protocols like SOAP, but I will be avoiding it just for the sake of the discussion. Like I'll be avoiding SOAP. So what basically is API? We'll go through it first. So an API is basically the full form is like application programming interface. So for example, I have built a simple calculator in my like for example, I have coded it in Java or C and I have built a calculator and I'm running it on my own machine. Okay, so only I have the access to it. But for example, I want to make it publicly available so that it is reachable to someone who wants to use a calculator service in their particular application, like they want to calculate something. So what I will do is I will expose this to the outside world via an API. Okay, so that API layer is a basically you can call it as a kind of like I'm doing some kind of abstraction of my code that is housed in my local system, and I'm just exposing it it to the particular endpoint users like a URL, like a URL. It will be like something like, for example, this is how an API looks like. So for example, this is how an API looks like. Okay, you see you have an URL and it just says like create notification somewhere. So the users, for example, if I'm hitting this, making the call to this API, so basically a notification will be created somewhere, but I don't know what is the underlying code base inside it. So I don't actually need to know also. I just need to know like, okay, I'll tell like, okay, I need an API to make write a notification somewhere. Or for example, like you can think of it like a calculator. Maybe it can be a calculator and you can pass some parameters in an API like this: A is equal to 10 and B is equal to 5. So if it was if it was like a calculator API, it would have given you a result like sum is equal to 15. But you basically don't know where exactly that code base is running and what exactly is happening inside the code. You just want a result, input and output. So that is basically a fundamentals of an API. So generally, like if you are thinking of an API evolution, like it came like first of all, the protocols that came into place was SOAP, like Simple Object Access Protocol. I think the full form. Pardon me if I am wrong, but so then then there was like then there it had some kind of problem with it being a little bulky, like the message, because in a standard SOAP API, like you have to provide like some kind of headers and all these things for security purposes. But over here, what we see is basically a traditional standard REST API. You see, like it has just an opening and the closing tags, and like the parameters, like it's a key value pair. Like we call this as a JSON, JavaScript object notation. So we call this a structure as a JSON structure. So what happens? What basically the advantage we achieve with this kind of API is, first of all, it's very lightweight and very fast. So so with this kind of APIs, we can achieve a lot of things. For example, like in a traditional scenario, for example, I was working on a scenario where there was an IoT sensor and in an electric meter. So if in case there is a malfunction in an electric meter, it was sending a signal to a notification system. So what was happening there is the IoT sensor was transmitting to a Raspberry Pi. Okay, it was attached to a Raspberry Pi, and the Raspberry Pi actually was transmitting it to a message queue, like it was a queue, and that queue was dropping those messages onto a middleware. So that queue is like also a part of the middleware. So, and this middleware was using a REST API provided by one system to send out notification emails and SMSs to the particular concerned users. So here is a use case where we see like how an API is used to make a communication, and maybe like we can have multiple middlewares, like two companies want to interact with each other. They both can have their APIs talk to each other via middleware. So technically, if we see like a block diagram, so here is a real-time architecture diagram. What happens here is like so here is a real-time architecture diagram. For example, here is a mobile or a web app. So it reaches out to an API management layer. Like, so again, like when you say like we are exposing an API over the internet, then exactly the question of like security and these things comes up. So for this, we have a management layer which manages the API, the security. So for example, if I have this API, like not everyone can access it. So it is controlled by something called as an authorization. So here we see a basic authentication, like you have an username and password. Only if you provide a correct username and password, you can only reach this actual backend system. So all these management functions of this authentication of the requests are done on this layer, the API management layer, and it will see like, okay, is it a valid request? Is it the person is providing a like a real username and password, or is it some hacker trying to get underneath our system? So once this request is validated here, here is a company firewall. Over here, it goes to a load balancer. But for the sake of this, you can maybe avoid this for a simple understanding. But in real-time scenarios, you will have basically load balancers, so which will basically balance the load across multiple instances of the middleware. So over here, sometimes middlewares are sometimes called as ESBs also, like smart people like to call it as an enterprise service bus. The simple reason being, like previously before this enterprise service bus came into picture, for two applications to get connected to each other, the only way to connect them was via a point-to-point application. So if application A was trying to connect to application B, there was only a single point connections between A to B. And if if A to C was a connection was needed, we needed to make another connection from A to C. So this type of architecture was very hard to maintain. So there actually middleware came into existence. So basically it's kind of a hub and spoke model, you can think. Like all the connections are made onto the middleware and there is no point-to-point architecture. So basically what will happen is like it's very loosely coupled. So in a way, like you can very easily onboard and offboard any application. For example, tomorrow, if we need to offboard an application B, for example, so previously, like what you need to do was like to find out with which all applications it is connected and remove each connections. So right now with the arrival of middleware and ESBs, so this is very easy. Just you have to just remove the link from it to the middleware. That's it. And this part entirely is called the middleware layer, like from API management to this entire ESB instance. So this part is entirely the ESB, the middleware layer, like it sits inside the company infrastructure. And finally, there is a backend application over here with which actually the objective of the mobile or the web app to connect. For example, this might be another REST API, or this can be basically a database with which the mobile application wishes to connect, and it has to go through these layers. And here it might be done some, it might be needed to do some kind of transformation. For example, like a mobile or web application may send out a date in a DDMM YY format. And for example, the backend application is somewhat situated in maybe US. So it will understand is in MM or DD, MMDD YY format. So there is a kind of great transitions. Like these are like simple transitions which are done on ESB layer. So basically, what are the application areas? What we can like achieve over here is like, for example, like mainly we use it here for payment gateways. Like we can do it for online flight reservations and definitely IoT applications, which is like a modern day need actually. So there are multiple, there might be many other use cases, but I have like chosen these three applications like to just show you a brief detail. Like for example, like I'll just start with an IoT application. So what happens in an IoT application was like the need was like here there was a fish tank like in an aquarium. So in case like what we were doing was like if the water level in the fish tank was going down, so in that case we would have to call a service person to find out where the problem is. So in that case, previously we were doing it manually. Okay, if someone was looking at it like, okay, if the water level is down, like make a call, and the service person over there in the customer support, he'll pick up and he will just pick up the call and make a ticket, and the personnel responsible for servicing that aquarium will come up and fix the fault. So what we have done on automation over here is like we have attached an IoT sensor, which is connected to a Raspberry Pi via serial port, and attached it on a fish tank. So what happens is whenever the water level goes down, so there are general purpose input output pins in Raspberry Pi. So basically it sends out the Boolean signal, yes or no, like some kind of things. So it was like transmitting continuously. So in case like there is a fall in the water level, that Raspberry Pi was making a call to via Python code. It was making a call to a middleware layer. Like here I have here you can see like something as Boomi. So Boomi is basically an product, is a middleware product which does all these things. And the SAP S/4HANA is kind of an ERP system where we write like notifications and all. So via this Python code, we are making a call over here. So this was basically this was the web service. This was the REST API call which I was showing you. So here in middleware, like there was some logics was put in place to use the SAP's S/4HANA's REST API and write down a notification there. Okay, so this is how we have achieved it using a middleware layer. So this, and most of the times these middleware layers are like kind of like previously you could have done it on a traditional conventional coding via Java development, but most of the industry standards use like out of the box tools. For example, like here is one tool like which we commonly use. This is called as Dell Boomi. This is a product of Dell. So here we can see like there are like flows. Like basically you don't have to do much of a coding over here. Like there are like connectors and REST APIs inbuilt on top of it. For example, here is a connector that just listens on a disk location. Okay, and it picks up a file and does some certain kind of things as needed by the business logic. And sometimes basically you need to do some kind of coding. So it's always like good to have like a coding knowledge. So, but not always necessary. So for example, like here was some kind of custom code were needed because not everything was provided out of the box. For example, I was doing some kind of date time transformation here. Over here, you can see like getting a current date and like getting local time and date, and then finding the time and hour, like some kind of things. So these are the type of scenarios where you need to do some kind of custom codes on this middleware platform, whichever you use. But most of the time, and you just have to just build flows out of here, and most of the time the APIs will be supplied, and like you have to just make a call to them. So it's like low code, but at some point of time you have to do some kind of code to achieve exactly like this low code solution. So the next use that we can look at it here is like a flight reservation use case, like which most of us do. For example, like you can have like a mobile app. For example, you can think of it as your Make My Trip app, and you wish to make a flight booking. So for example, Make My Trip makes a call to a middleware platform, and in this middleware platform, you have like it makes a call to like 3 different airlines. Like for example, you can think of it like Jet Airways. Oh, sorry, it's not there in business anymore. You can think of it as Air India, Indigo, and for example, SpiceJet. Like and the user is passing a request like this. It's a source and a destination, and it is passing like a journey date. Okay, this date we want to make a journey. And yes, it's also passing some kind of sort filters, like you see in this websites, like you put kind of like sort by price and flight duration. So this kind of request is sent to the sent from the mobile or the web app by the user, and technically this kind of a response that comes back is like with flight details like XYZ Air, like this is the departure time, arrival time, duration, and this kind of details this send us back. So exactly this is like a payload, like an output of this mobile app that goes to a middleware, like the request you can call it, and the response that comes out of middleware is something like this. So you can see some kind of enrichment is happening here. So exactly like what it happens here is like, for example, it goes here, and the backend, like the application, for example, those airline system, for example, they don't understand this format what I am sending. It's an XML format. It's similar to HTML, but you see like those tags in XML are just like a custom tags. Like you don't have to have a standard tags like HTML, like head, body, and all these things. You can have custom tags in XML. So in the target, but however, in the target side, like the airlines API, they understand, for example, JSON. Like they need something like you are sending a city name, but for them, like it's a code and code. So for example, the middleware, what it will do is like it will call a lookup table. Like it will be there inside a middleware. Like it will pass Bangalore as BLR, Delhi as DLI, and Mumbai as MUM. Because if you pass with the search criteria to the airline API, the airline might not respond back because it doesn't understand Bangalore and Delhi. It understands BLR, DLI, like how these airport codes are done. So it sends out this message to the airline, and the airline is like responding back, okay, I have a flight, like this is the departure time, this is the arrival time. Is it a hopping flight? No. And the price without GST is like this much is the amount. So what happens, the middleware layer, like it has to like format the response of the airline system for a client understandable format. So what it does is like it does a calculation of flight duration from the departure and arrival time, and then it has to apply the GST on the price, and then sort all of the results by the price first and then by duration. Because if you remember, like we had passed a sort filter. So these kind of things are pretty common use cases. So that is it, like pretty much what we do here in middleware. And as for example, like we have to have some kind of like customs code here sometimes, like we generally do it with Groovy scripts or Node.js, like calculation of time and like doing some kind of sorts on XML or JSON with XSLTs and JavaScript. So these are like certain kind of good to have skills in this domain. So that is like all that I have for as a presentation for you guys. So if you have any questions, like please let me know. Like
Hello.
Yes,
Am I
ma'am.
audible?
Yes, you're audible,
Yes.
ma'am.
This is a very proud moment from us. Rajarshee, I don't know that you remember me or not, but
Yes, ma'am, I remember you very much.
very much.
You are the person who gave me a very good code base in C.
Yes.
That's why I am like pretty much comfortable in Java right now, like writing all these logics and all. Like,
yes.
So I pretty much remember you.
Yes, so in this moment, I'm taking a question from every student. I want that student, you are very free to ask any question to your senior, and the Rajarshee will guide you, not like a speaker, but as a senior of BIT. I think so. So you are very much just write any form of question. Don't think that maybe this is a silly question. You can ask any type of question. Okay, so we are waiting your question but before taking student question, I want that any question from faculty side, we will take that first. Then student, you can write in the chat box or you can unmute yourself. So anyone from faculty side, you can ask first. Or
okay.
we will take, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Rajarshee, for your excellent presentation. I have a question. Why is middleware is important in system integration?
For example, if you have two applications that want to talk to each other and they both are like located behind their company firewalls. For example, today Amazon wants to talk to Flipkart, for example. So they both have their firewall restrictions. So they will only expose a part of it that is needed for Flipkart. Sorry, it's like two e-commerce sites, they don't talk. But for example, like Make My Trip wants to talk to Indigo. That's better example. For example, Indigo has their own databases and all. They are inside their own infrastructure and they will not expose anything to the outside party. So what they will do is they will, via their middleware, they will expose an API to, for example, Make My Trip and say, okay, you can access only this API and you can make this much of calls. Like they will limit the calls also. Like those are like actually, again, going to the API management, call tier and all this. Like a gold tier will get unlimited calls. A free tier will get, okay, you can make 5 calls for a developer. So these kind of things, like when you want to protect your background applications inside, you can think of it like an encapsulation from an object-oriented perspective, and just expose only a little bit of part for the external party to talk to you. So that is exactly the necessity of a middleware. And a
Okay,
security,
thank you.
from a security perspective also, like in this, like particularly in the banking industry, like it's very stringent security measures, like banking and the healthcare. If you go, like not like in India, in US and all, like the healthcare data is very sensitive. Like they have like stringent guidelines, like you cannot open up the customer's record and all. Like for that case, like they will definitely use middleware.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, some student from Joita Gupta, yes, asking for root tag. Okay, work of root tag. You can see the chat box, Rajarshee.
Okay, what is the work of root tag? Okay,
Yes.
so Joita, so are you familiar with HTML? Like, you can unmute yourself, like.
Joita, you can unmute yourself.
Yes. So in HTML, how do you start it? Like a head, title, body, something like this. So you can think of XML similar to HTML, but just the difference is like you can have your own tag. Just you can have your own name. Okay, Joita as a start tag and end tag. You have to have an end at the end tag, like closing and ending. And what is the use of root is like root will say the compiler, okay, this is the starting of the XML and the ending of the XML. This is just an indication of the start and the end. So this is just like how do you start a program in Java? Like you open brackets and close brackets. You can think of it like this.
So somebody is asking, Amitabh Chatterjee is asking for wish to extract data from Google Map using Excel VBA. Is it possible?
At least 2-3 years back, this APIs used to be pretty much free for like usage, like Twitter API, Google APIs, and like this Facebook APIs. But since this Cambridge Analytica incident happened, you have to provide a proper justification to access these APIs, because earlier like you could have like got this data, but I'm not sure exactly if Google Maps has the free API, but you can just check it. Google Maps APIs, like you can Google Maps API, like maybe as a developer license you have to provide take, but because I was checking few days back, because they were asking me to like register as a developer, something like that. But you can have a look there. You can have a look, but previously it was free, but since the Cambridge Analytica, the data breach, they have like had some stringent measures right now.
Now, one question from Bipin Chandra Boshak is asking for application of middleware and modern kind of is same.
Modern kind of same, like yeah, modem was also like does modulation and demodulation, but middleware is much more powerful. Like it can does a whole lot of things. You can write your own set of flows, like for example, like it can read your inboxes, mailboxes, and send a message like, okay, you are out of office, and all these things it can do. It's more powerful than that.
So
how to start coding JavaScript?
JavaScript, yes.
So how to start coding in JavaScript, like so for example, like if you're familiar with Java, don't confuse it with JavaScript. It's just like comparing car and carpet. Yes. So to just learn JavaScript, you can just go to tutorials point or anywhere. Like there are lots of like free learnings, tutorials points and all, like you can just learn from there. And maybe like have a like do some hands-on. That's how like you can like gain some expertise over there.
Rajarshee, one question from device location. Just check it. Can we trace any device location by its address through Java or Python?
Sorry, where is the question?
The question is here. Just can we trace any device location by its IP address through Java or Python?
Good question, but
this is a direct question.
Location. But I don't think I am the right person to answer this question, because it is actually it goes into the domain of networking, to be honest. Actually, it's like not exactly, but there is IP tracer and all this kind of tools. Like you can like put on your like on your Google on your browser search an IP tracer, track IP and all, like you can see, like put the IP address and you can find out from where it comes from. But again, like if you're thinking like some hackers are like trying to attack you, but don't worry, they use pretty much VPN, so you will not be able to trace it. Like VPN is like a private network that will give you a different IP address of a different place. So, but it goes to a like a networking domain, like it's like not a middleware question or Java question.
Okay, thank you, Rajarshee, for your lovely presentation and interactive session. But my question towards you that we want you once more time, when we need that, you please share your details to your juniors. And if they want, they can communicate with you. It will be better to them. You just share your details, I think maybe your email ID or your LinkedIn profile. You just share it with your juniors. Okay.
Yeah, Shobhan sir already has my LinkedIn details. Like
okay, okay, we will provide them. And now we like to welcome Professor Tanmoy Pal, our IIC convener, to share our appreciation certificate to you, because this is a virtual session. Professor Tanmoy Pal, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Tripti madam, and thank you very much, Mr. Mukherjee. It was a very wonderful speech and very motivating speech. I think the students will get motivated by your speech and they will have some idea. This is a very small token of appreciation from our end, IIC BIT. Is it visible, Mr. Mukherjee?
Yes, it's visible. It's visible.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. It's a very wonderful.
That is visible.
Welcome, sir.
Now I like to welcome Dr. Tapan Kumar Pal to give vote of thanks. And during this moment, Professor Doipan Mukherjee shared the feedback link in the chat box. Over to you, Tapan, sir. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Yes. Thank you, Tripti madam.
You are audible now.
Okay. So I think it is a very wonderful sessions, and there is very interactive session. The students have also some queries. I think all the queries is answered by Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay. So I want to give thanks to the speaker, Mr. Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay, a alumni of BIT and integrations consultant, Boomers, Belgium, for his wonderful speech on the behalf of IIC BIT cell. And I want to like to thanks to all the participants, including Professor N.C. Ghosh, sir, Principal, sir, and all the IIC BIT team, especially Professor Shobhan Nandi and Professor Tripti Majumdar, Professor Subrata Mukherjee, Chakraborty. And also I want to thanks to all the participants, especially the students who participate in these events and made this event very successful. So I also thanks to all the members of IIC BIT team, who those are very much engaged for this kind of seminar all over the weekend, I think. So thanks to all for this event. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. So actually, I was surprised. Like no one had a question. Like actually, I had this question when I was in my third year and fourth year, particularly. Like I am from electronics background. What I will be doing in the software industry? As no one has this question, or like people have like actually people have evolved and no one has this question anymore. So
you can still write your question to chat box. Students, you can still write your question to chat box.
okay, will you tell us about what's Boomer and what is it about? It's actually in the name of my company. It's nothing fancy. That's it. So, want to know your experience during placements? Like you mean campus placements, or like okay.
Now
So
they are
my
asking as senior.
okay, so my experience was like my experience was okay. It was like nothing special, like because it was a long round of campusing, like till like at least 12:30 and 1. Actually, I went home. It was in a first slot. I think I got a job, and that was like actually I was fortunate to get a job, but many of my batchmates didn't get a job from the college campus because that year it was not very good. But don't be disheartened if you don't get a job out of college campus, because that's not the end of life. Because particularly the ones who have not got a job out of college campus, like they had got really good jobs out of like once they were out of the college. Like it's like, and don't think like if you are like not getting a job in a placement college placement drive, like your career is over. So you'll definitely do well once you come out of the college. Like so, and for making a career, what are the programming language one should focus on for future? So see, pick up one. If you are interested in programming, just pick up one language and master it. I'll say like, and definitely like tomorrow, like you will be able to switch to another language. For example, if you like Python, work on Python, master it. Tomorrow, like Node.js will be like nothing to you, like because see, most of the cases in IT industry, you will get help from Google and all. So if you are like familiar with Python, you can simply understand like the Node.js functions, or like the simple thing with C++. If you know well, you can understand Java. So the next one is, sir, would you get any would you get any problem when change your branch from software from electronics? No, actually, I went directly into software, so I did not work in electronics companies. So I had like by God's grace and Tripti madam's help, like some good knowledge on C. So technically, it helped me to like propel through. That's it. And I don't think like you need to be very gifted to do some like coding and all. Like if you have some kind of knowledge, some kind of logic, and you can like pretty well do it. Even if you are like, for example, working in electronics, tomorrow if you are working on a Raspberry Pi and IoT things, you need to have the Python, a little bit of Python scripting, you will be exposed to it. So like it's always a good to have skill. What's the future of students of diploma in computer science? But you will be out of the college with a BTech degree, so I don't think your diploma have any effect on this one, like in your placements or anything. What was your base
So
language
now
for
they
your?
are asking a general question to Rajarshee.
What was
Is it
your
so,
base language
Rajarshee?
for your job? Yes, yes. You mean the base language means you mean the computer language. So I knew only Java and C and data structures. I did not know Java before going into job. So I learned over there. And yeah, of course, I struggled really badly. Like my first project, it was on Java. And like what happens is like they teach you in academy, it's like here. And when you land in a real-time project, it was here. So I was suffering badly in that project. Like I was fixing somewhere here and it was breaking and all. Like I was saying like, where am I? So after a while, like you struggle and then you get used to those things. That's it. What are your thoughts about cloud computing? It's very good. Like it's very good. Like no technology is bad. Like if you pick up, make sure to like master one. How many days it took you to learn it? You mean Java? I'm still learning it, man. Like which language is going to use in future? Java is evergreen. I will say like
Nobody says that.
Java is evergreen. So I'll stick to Java, but yeah, definitely like Python Node, you can obviously explore on this. But I feel comfortable in any object-oriented thing, so I'll go with Java. Is certificate important for interview or projects or both? What kind of certificate you are talking about? Could you be a little specific? How many languages are needed for a proper programmer? Learn one very well. That should be.
Skill set.
skill certifications. Uh, certificates are good to have, like if you want to get interviews scheduled and all. But at the end of the day, your knowledge is important. That should be the goal. What should be aim for computer science student? Be familiar with the technologies that's going on in the market. Because when I was a pass out in 2014, so that time we did not have like so many online courses and all these things that and unlimited internet to go through those courses. So we basically were exposed with C and this thing, C and data structure knowledge in the real world. So if you are like a computer science student, so I'll like advise you maybe like have a little knowledge. What is a CRM? Maybe Salesforce a little bit. Just not be an expert, but you should like if you know it a little bit, it's good. And maybe cloud. Is
So now, Rajarshee, I have one question to you. You can say them in a one sentence way that if they learn something, there is no problem in any way.
Yes, 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 of course. Of course,
So
of course.
during this 4 years, they have to learn something in any language. If they are confident, they can understand in other language in very, very short period of time. So
yes, yes, exactly.
junior first years, those who are asking this type of question, or any year they are asking this type of question, as a professor, I can say that you have to learn something during your 4-year study. If you learn something, then on campus or off campus, that is not the problem. Okay. So now over to Shobhan sir, and we like to conclude this session. Thank you again, Rajarshee Mukhopadhyay, and over to you, Shobhan sir. You are not audible, Shobhan sir.
You're on mute.
Shobhan sir, you are just unmute yourself.
Yes, yes, sorry.
Yes.
Rajarshee, just one last question to you, actually. What is the scope of in the entry level of the industry? As an integration consultant, is there any scope of the freshers?
Sir, actually, there are like if you define this company, there are like service based and product based. Okay, so just to just tell you guys what is the difference between the things. Like companies like TCS, Cognizant, and all these are like service-based companies. They work for a different client. For example, maybe Bank of America is the client, and they are working for them. And product-based are the one like who are making their own products. For example, companies like Nokia and something like that, or maybe Microsoft. They're developing their own product. So what happens is the mass recruitment is carried out by these companies like TCS, CTS, and all these things. So what happens is in those companies, like they'll train you in academy, but you don't know exactly what your project will be. It is completely depending on the requirement. But yeah, if you show interest, then you can definitely move, because I have seen many of my colleagues, like they were, for example, they were put into some middleware, but they did not like it. They wanted to do testing. So they studied from outside and they just switched companies, or internally they went to something different, like a data science. Someone was interested in, one of our batchmates was interested in very much in R programming and like mathematical modeling. So he opted to go with data science. So that is like in fresher level, you don't have a choice much, because you don't have a knowledge, because until unless you have some knowledge, you cannot command anyone like, okay, you have to give me this to work on. Once you have a good knowledge on something and some kind of experience, then you can definitely you can definitely choose to change your stream. Like that's it, I'll say.
Okay, thank you. I have got my answer. Actually, okay, thank you all the audiences. Thanks for all again, actually, to make this webinar a grand success. And thank you, Rajarshee. And in future, we will contact you again if
Sure.
Definitely we require your guidance as per the different programs are going on actually through the banner of IIC BIT as well as in association with ISTE BIT also. We have a
Is
student
it an
chapter.
initiative by the MHRD, like for all the colleges?
Yes, actually this type of IIC community has to be built up by the initiative of the MHRD, Government of India. And definitely different colleges, definitely it's a mandatory actually nowadays.
Okay.
For different kinds of programs we have to conduct in the different quarters. Okay, so thank you again. Thank you all for making this webinar a grand success. And officially now I want to close this session. And thank you, participants. And please fill up the feedback form to ensure your participation certificate. Thank you all.